And by the way, just when you think you have control over your life from that ego and pride, that's how you are controlled. Yeah. So it works against you. So Ray, do we have a comment today?
We had a comment from Viola
Yes.
in the Netherlands.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see here. Viola said, "Thank you very much for this insight. Being confrontational is something that brings fear out of me. It makes me feel very uncomfortable, whether I'm the one being confrontational or someone else is being confrontational to her. It
Right.
feels like pressing and forcing something onto others, and that is what I feel is making the energy get blocked."
Right. It does block the energy. It shuts down the conversation.
Right. We get stuck when we do that. Oh my God, what a great insight. I do certainly have an opinion, though, and honestly, I try to convince people to open their eyes to what I believe is happening. However, I'm glad to read that being in a group that's confrontational is to be avoided, as it won't bring around any good. While I write this comment, I realize I still have a lot to learn. Viola. And Linda said, true transformation only happens in the realizations. Once you experience the realizations, only then will you be capable of moving forward. Your realization describes how it feels when you experience this, a new sense of freedom, freedom from the way you thought things should be or maybe would be.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. It's the way a person thinks things should have been. And when it doesn't work out like that, then there's conflict. And by the way, I want you guys to think about this. This has been going on, this has been building for a long time. Road rage. Okay.
They even have movies about it now.
Shootings. All this upset, this inner turmoil that people can't seem to hold in anymore, and they lash out. Okay. And that could be you in the smallest way. It could be you trying to be right about the smallest thing. The fact that you're trying, like Viola said, trying to be confrontational, to get your point across, to make them understand that you are right. I'll tell you what, these journals that I wrote, okay, this is the one where you go back and heal the problem. This one is where you start to record, you start to write in your journal about what went on with you that day. This is my journal writing. This is the roadmap to consciousness. In other words, until you become conscious, become aware of your part in what this big societal divide is about, where you play a part in that, and what needs to heal in you, you won't know it until you start to do the writing it down. This will bring it to your attention.
You mentioned that people as individuals are pretty cool. You meet a lot.
Before they start grouping up. And it's like ganging up.
Right. Well,
like a gang. A gang does not exist unless the group exists.
Right. Think back when you were a kid. You were an individual. You came in as an all-powerful little individual. All right. Until people started telling you who you could associate with. Oh no, you can't play with those kids. You can't do that. They're not. They're this or they're not that. Oh no, you can't think like that. That's not right. We don't agree with their parents, what their parents agree with, so you can't play with that kid. That kind of stuff. Oh no, that kid lives on the other side. That was when I was a kid. Oh, that kid lives on the other side of the tracks. The other side of the tracks.
So I want to ask you something, all of you who are watching this or will watch this. How many of you broke the rules and said, I'm going to go ahead and play with that kid on the other side of the tracks, since they're so awful? What's so awful about them? That would have been me. Okay, all through Guided, I talk about those things I did and the price I paid. Are there consequences? Every time. Make your choice. You go this way, there's consequences. Go that way, there's consequences. But to just make a decision based on what the group tells you is true or not, so that you don't have to do the work, you don't have to think for yourself. You guys, that's division. That's how there's a strategy for war. It's called divide and conquer. Okay, there's that. In fact, that's a book, right, Ray?
The Art of War. Everybody should read that book.
The Art of War, divide and conquer. So you can't conquer anybody until there's division. Okay, and right now, what happens a lot of times in this division is people take each other out. In fact, the powers that be just sit back and watch the sides take each other down, and they think it's pretty funny. That's pretty sad. Okay, we can all do better than that instead of being controlled. Really, the minute we do this and we stop thinking for ourselves and we go with the group mind and decide to divide ourselves, okay, and we're comfortable with that. That is why that's why the world, the global, the big societal divide is going on, and it's really showing up now, and it's going to continue for at least a couple more years as the world stresses out from it and struggles with evolving through this and wakes up to what's really important, what's really going on, what the message is in all of this, okay? Because this is not going to work. This is just going to be more strife, more struggle, more war, more retaliation, more fighting. And that's what's wrong with it. The only way that you have impact is going to be by writing down. I'm going to take the journal back out. You got to get this, is to take each one of these. It's a journal entry, okay? This is the journal entry. There's 4 qualifying questions in each one of these entries. What was unusual or out of the ordinary that day, or where you screwed up? You got to write it down. You got to be accountable to somebody. That would be yourself. You write it down, then you ask yourself the second question, how it feels. How does that feel, what you just wrote down? This is between you and yourself. No one's going to see this. So tell yourself the truth. Because then, once you really get real with this, you're going to realize something that takes no effort at all. That's a natural byproduct to doing the writing it down and the inquiry about how it feels. You're going to know you're going to have a realization. And then your action will be different than it would have been before you did this. This is going to get you right.
So these kids come in as individuals, beautiful individuals. About what time do you think in their life they become not individual? They lose their individuality.
When they start to become defiant and start fighting for their individuality. They didn't expect to have to fight for it once they got here. It's like, no. And the kid turns around and says back to the parent, no. Okay, I'll tell you no back. Don't tell me no. Okay, your individuality, it's fighting for its life instead of complying with the pressure from this world and just melting into it, just giving in to be a good little girl or a good little boy. You lose yourself.
Yeah, the worst thing a kid can hear from their parents is, they're always asking why, is they're fighting for their individuality. Why is it like this? Why is that like that?
Right.
But when your parents tell you, because I'm the parent, that's why.
That's not an answer. That's nonsense.
That's to squash their individuality.
Yeah. And that's why you have to go back to your original whys and start to fill in the blanks, the gaps, the divide. Okay. That's where you need to fill it in, because that's where you're messing up. You really have a lot of stuff that happened when you first came here that's interrupting who you really are and what you came here to do. All this division, this big global divide, is just, it's a karmic lesson. How much of this karmic lesson do you think you really need? How much is in it for you? Really, ask yourself that. That's why nearing the end of this, okay, what they said, the guide said, rather than arguing about what's right or wrong, dividing classes, countries, races, or any type of political divide, people should look at the elements behind the divide and stop attacking the person. That's what's really going on. It's filtering down to people fighting with each other instead of looking at the elements behind the divide. How do you find the elements? Here I go again. You start writing down what those elements are for you. You start to realize and discover them within yourself first. Once you realize these things for yourself, you will have compassion for the karmic lessons and the struggle and strife and pain that society is going through to achieve a balance, ultimately achieve a balance. But right now we're in the chaos. We're in the big societal divide. We're in the I'm right, you're wrong. I want this person in. I want that person in. I mean, there's so much, there is so much, the truth and the lies. I don't want to hear about the lies. I believe in my side, and I'm not going to shift. I'm not going to change my mind no matter what I hear. Well, that's ridiculous. You should at least be open to the truth. That's another divide.
So why do people cheat? You know, I've always been amazed at why people cheat. Is it because they don't have a strong individuality? They cheat so they can belong to the group a little while
Well,
longer?
think about why you would cheat. Everybody's cheated at some point. You have to try it out to know, is that right for me or wrong for me? We've all had to try it out, experiment with cheating to see how it feels. How does it work out for you? What I've learned about cheating and watching cheaters is it's a short life. Whatever it is they're cheating about or on or with or through or whatever, it doesn't have a long shelf life. People eventually see through the cheater, the liar, the whole thing. They see through it. And it won't be long before you're ousted, before you're ridiculed, before you're known for being a cheater, okay, or a liar, or any of those kind of things. That
At what point though does the cheating become acceptable? You know, people cheat a lot through their whole lives.
it never is acceptable, Ray, because really it just cheats you. Who it really cheats is the person doing the cheating.
But somebody's tolerating your cheating. I mean, if you cheat as an individual,
Not forever.
or a group,
It doesn't
cheats,
hold up.
or
And why are we in a big social divide right now and just really beginning to really get into the gnarly part of it? It's because those who've cheated are being brought to the mat. They're being confronted. And the people who see the cheaters, they're facing them off. And now it's like this, bam. And we're right in the middle of it, you guys. It's just beginning to explode.
Yeah.
This is not the first time the guides have talked about in these insights, talked about this societal issue. Not at all. We've been doing these insights for 6 years now. Okay. And they've been, the whole point to these insights is navigating you through these uncertain times that you're now living in. And they've been guiding all of us regarding where this is all heading. And here we are. The guides, they've talked about this 4 years ago. This is where it was heading. You probably weren't watching what we were doing then, but you can find them all right on the website under blogs for Linda's Weekly Guided Insights. Yeah. So this is their job. Their job is to help the ones who can be reached. The ones who can be reached are the ones who follow me.
Well, the people who cheat, okay, and the groups that cheat, groups of people who cheat and people who cheat, there comes a time if they don't get reprimanded somewhere along the way, they think the cheating's okay.
They do. They don't see a thing wrong with it.
Right.
Not a thing. In fact, they're real arrogant about what they're doing and what they've been getting away with. Like, what's wrong with you? I'm not doing anything wrong. That's what happens. If you get away with something for 30 years, you think to yourself, well, I've been getting away with it for so
Must
long.
be right.
What's wrong with it? I mean, you have a problem with it. What's wrong with you? You're just a poor loser.
Or cheating in a relationship. One person cheats on the other one and they get caught. See,
that happened to Ray. Ray was in a relationship and he caught her cheating. And he said, let's try to patch it up. He really tried to make it work out. And he said,
apologize.
And I'll forgive you.
Yeah, there you go.
And what did she say?
Well, I didn't do anything wrong.
She'd been cheating on him all the time.
You made me do it. See, there you go. There's that
justification.
Justification. People who cheat justify why they cheat.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. You made me do it.
Wait a minute. Okay, that's perfect, Ray. Because what did they say here? They said about blame. It's in here. In fact, I know I read it somewhere. Let me see. It's in this insight. They talk about instead of blaming the person. Let me see where that is. Okay, rather than divide always. Okay, the problem is that people have no respect or tolerance for people who are different. Rather, they blame people on the other side of the divide for their troubles in life. Ray, you made me do that.
Well, and then the other thing, you find that
it's always someone else's fault.
Yeah, or if the cheater gets caught, all right?
Yeah.
Well, not only do they say it's your fault, but what they're angry about is how you found out about it.
Right, that's exactly right. When I was married the first time, I found out he was cheating, right? And the first thing he said when I confronted him, by the way, it took me 2 weeks to bring it up because I had to think it through. I had to know my next move because I knew I was on my own at that point. He says to me, "Who told you?" I said,
"You're the last one to know."
What's that got to? I was the last one to know. I said, "What's that got to do with it?"
Right.
And he's in his head. It wasn't about what he did. It was about how did I get caught?
Yeah. How dare you go through my emails and catch me cheating?
And all he was doing is fixing the problem she asked him to fix. And there was her email wide open. There was the message.
Hello. Who's this guy?
That's just sloppy. Okay, so if you're gonna be a cheater and divide yourself and play these games, you better be good at it, But
you don't cheat on a person who fixes your computer.
You know what? It's really stupid, but it comes down to this big divide and this whole thing has over the years, over the decades, it's gotten to this point where we're at. Okay, and it's exploding, you guys. It's going into total chaos. Expect that to happen. So how are you going to manage yourself as we move through this big societal divide? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? Are you going to take a side and fight like crazy to prove your point with your crew, with your side, with your team? Are you going to fight? Then I can tell you that that's a choice for some people. And it's and that's just being part of the karmic lesson in this big picture. And what I suggested at the end of this insight, and I'll read that one part again. This is what will give you a clear direction going forward, writing in your journal and getting real with yourself. Rather than letting the lessons of this big societal divide that humanity is moving through wear you down. Do you really need the lesson in that? Or do you need to pull back from that whole thing, from that whole, drama, really, that fight, that need to be right type thing? Do you need to just pull back and go, okay, I need to look inside of me. I need to see what this is telling me, how it speaks to me, if it even does. And that's where the journal writing comes in. And I want you guys to know I'm going to be starting a training that is going to be affordable. It's going to be available as a curriculum. and I'm going to be launching it next month. So we're moving toward that. It's going to be really good, and it's going to help you guys work through this stuff so you don't become a product of the problem. And if you have been a product of the problem, you'll know how to move out of it and get right with yourself and get around to why you came here. Okay, instead of wasting your life fighting. That's useless. All right. And what you'll become is you'll become an example. It's called a role model for other people to step out of that chaos where there's nothing real, really no resolve, just a lot more fighting. And they can begin to step out of it because you show them an example that's healthy. All right. Okay, so I'm going to move through this, Ray. Do we have it, baby?
We have got it.
Okay, so I've got a few announcements before we close the session with our closing message from the guides. Don't let us forget to do that. Okay, next Tuesday, December 22nd, join us for episode number 262 of Linda's Weekly Guided Insights with me, Ray, and my spirit guides at 6 p.m. Pacific time on my Facebook page, my Facebook timeline, and my YouTube channel. Use the search term Linda Deer. In Linda's Weekly Guided Insights, what my spirit guides will be talking about is your relationship a discussion or an argument? A lot of you, most people have been locked down largely and stuck under the same roof with your whole family. Okay.
A lot of times for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
For an extended period of time.
Yeah. You're really kind of getting to know each other again.
You can't even get along in the car when you're going somewhere, much less be locked down in the house for months.
It's true. So the takeaway from this episode is you will know what type of relationship you currently have. You don't want to miss this one. Okay. Why are relationships so difficult that people want one will want out of it at some point? Think about that. It's hard to say that you know couples who have a perfect intimate relationship. How it works out is all about what you learned along the way on your journey together. Everything else is a byproduct of that. Think about that. How it works out is all about what you learned along the way on your journey together. Everything else is a byproduct of that. So this Thursday, December 17th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, join us on our Facebook private group, Ask the Universal Channel. The teachers of Ask the Universal Channel will be performing the following. Kathy's guides will be talking about the importance of understanding the magnitude of how every action you take affects the entire universe. Imagine that you're that powerful. Veronica will ask her guides to explain why the best questions for self-realizations are related to your daily experiences. I like that. Joy will ask her guides why people are continuing on as if things haven't changed. That'll be interesting too. Oh, everything's just fine, you know. This event will be hosted by Linda Deer and Ray Hawley and the Spirit Guides. So this Saturday, December 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I will be reading from the 137 tips, learnings, lessons, and awarenesses sprinkled throughout Guided on my Facebook page, Facebook timeline, and YouTube channel. This reading will awaken you to the guidance that is always available. Couldn't be at a better time than right now, as the big societal divide is going down and you need a resource, a better choice. All right. Okay.
Yeah, for those who got used to you reading, from Guided every Saturday until that ran out, we did the first week where you started reading from the tips, learnings, lessons, and awarenesses. That was pretty interesting for those of you who did not see it or hear it.
Right, right. That happened last Saturday.
Go back and look it up.
Yeah.
On your website.
Yeah.
Well, you might want to mention we're not going to do a webinar this month.
Well, we won't be doing a webinar at the end of this month because it's between Christmas and New Year's, and everybody's kind of wrapped up in doing what they're doing. But we will be doing one the end of January. We've been guided. Ray and I have been guided to take a little break. Okay.
For the holidays.
Holly deer.
The holly days. The holly deer days.
Okay. And once again, if my work changes your life or helps you in any way, share what I do, my website, the books, what we do on Tuesdays, what we do on Thursdays, what we do on Saturdays, what, you know, all the things that we do, and the webinars and everything that we do with your like-minded friends. You can help them by letting them know about it. Okay. Okay, so we're going to let the guides close this session with their final message about the big societal divide, how they see closing this so you guys really can get your head around it. All right, and here they go.
Division, especially in society, has a lot to do with who you think you are accountable to. Are you accountable to yourself or a group, or maybe even your family? Who you are accountable to says a lot about your individuality. People, especially when they belong to groups, are divided from others by their expectations. If the expectation doesn't turn out to be what the group wanted, that's when the blaming starts. Try to not care about the outcome ahead of time. Just allow the outcome to materialize. The future holds infinite possibilities for an outcome. Having only one in mind is limiting. Write down what you believe in. Write down who you believe in. Let's hope that you are on that list. And most importantly, write down why you believe in something, for that will not only tell you much about your individuality, but who you are as a member of the universe.
It's reassessing what got you to where you are, so you can make some adjustments. You can make some better decisions. Okay, this is ultimately, I will tell you this, where it's all taking us. This is taking us to a better place, way better than we've been, what we've been leading up to. this is like a crescendo at this point. It has to happen out there in society. It has to happen so that this can come to an end. This can stop. All right. This can start making some sense in your life. But your responsibility, who you are accountable to, should be you. And
Yeah,
when you do that, when you have accountability to yourself, that's where you take. This takes 15 minutes a day of investment in you to flush out what's wrong in your life, what's right in your life, what you're doing right, where you're messing up. This is for your eyes only. Get real with yourself. You will blow right through this. You won't have to be, you won't have to step into the karmic lessons that the planet is heading for. You won't have to do it. You will see it for what it is. You will be calm. You will be you on the highest level, and you will find your way that way. Okay, through this maze, through this conflict, through this societal divide.
yeah, you certainly, if you want to be an individual, I mean, a lot of people feel more comfortable, I guess, belonging in a group because they don't have to think. But if you're concerned with being an individual, you can't be concerned with people's judgment or their criticism or being
They're criticizing.
ostracized from a group.
They're criticizing you now.
Right.
You just may not know what's going on behind your back, but it's still going on. Okay, so you may as well make it the right choice for you instead of worrying about fitting in, worrying about being on the right side, worrying about you. That's playing games. That's fraud, and
There
I
you go.
mean it's fraudulent to yourself is who you're defrauding. All right.
Yeah, you certainly should be worried about karma, but you shouldn't be crushed by the karma of the group that the group gets, because when that happens, a lot of people who are in the group go, "Well, that shouldn't have happened to me. I didn't like that. I should have been more of an individual."
That's weak.
Yeah, well, if they're an individual, it wouldn't have happened to them.
Yeah, if you're hanging on to stuff like that, if that's where you're coming from, that's a weak position to be in. That won't hold up real well. All right. It's time to get real with yourself. And the fastest, cleanest way to do it is to start writing in your journal. Get the journal. It's there. It's available on Amazon. Linda Deer. Easy to find.
If you can't write it, you can't fix it.
Yeah, that's right. And again, I'm going to be doing the training. It's going to start next month. I'll let you guys know about it.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing it now. It's just that I'm not doing it on a mass level where most people can afford it. All right. That's what's going to change.
It's going to be worldwide and everybody's going to be able to afford it.
Yeah. It's
All
great.
right.
Okay, you guys.
So we will see them.
We'll see you Thursday. We'll see you Saturday. We'll see you next Tuesday. We're out there for you.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Good night.
Everybody. Be an individual. Be kind.